I think it was about 3/4 of US enterprises that have increased, cybersecurity investment in the last year, while only I think a little bit more than half of UK companies boosted their spend. So what's contributing to that difference is that there's a heightened awareness of the threat landscape in the US, but also that UK enterprises have had higher budget cuts as an impediment to sort of lightening their investments. Both UK and US enterprises that have decreased their investment have something in common, though. It's not all completely different. They state talent shortages as the main reason. And actually, there's a recent report by the UK government that found that there was about 160,000 cybersecurity jobs available last year, which was, I think, a 30% increase from 2022. So to overcome that challenge, I think they need to redirect sort of organizational resources to other parts of the business, and it should also think about sort of develop.
So, my name is Ashish Kedan, and I'm a technical writer plus journalist at the Subject Plus by Cyber. And I basically cover technical copies and ransomwares and vulnerabilities, those kind of things. And I think Florie is the head of cybersecurity at CC Group,
That's right,
and
yes. So I lead
yeah,
up
she
the
brings in
cybersecurity stream at CC Group. So
yeah,
we're sort of a Marcom agency. We specialize in B2B technology. So I've
yeah,
been working in that sort of sector for a bit more than a decade, and I've specialized myself in the cybersecurity space, for the last, I would say, 8 years.
yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. So I think you bring 15 years of I think 12 years of experience in PR and marketing in the cybersecurity domain. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that carries a lot of weight. So yeah. So starting with the first question. So like in a tough economy, like how do businesses shift from cybersecurity priorities? Like how do you manage priorities? Like there has been a leak for a particular database, and there has been a vulnerability alongside it. So like how do you guys like shift priorities in those sessions?
Sure. So I think, because of the sort of tough economic climate we're in, many businesses, they're like are rethinking their approach to budget allocation, and more often than not, actually the first department to suffer from budget cuts is the marketing department. And I think that's completely the wrong approach. Business marketing function and teams are key in understanding, your consumers, how they feel, how they behave, how they're going to behave in the future as well. So they really are the sort of first touch point. And because of that, they are also the ones that are going to be delivering, leads to the sales team, which is even more crucial in a crisis like, a lot of businesses are facing right now. They need to find, new customers. So if anything, I think that businesses should give marketing teams, more budget to allow
Yeah,
them to create more content, be more regularly in touch with customers,
yeah,
partners, and prospects, and also support the sales team with lead generation, as much as possible. So
yeah.
we're
I think
helping them do
market.
that right now.
Yeah, I think marketing team is as important as the sales team and other teams. Like it carries a big budget on them, and there has to be some priorities. I think marketing team should have just like you said associated budgets. So my
Mhm.
second question to you is like how does marketing influence purchase decisions, and can you share some successful strategies for it?
Sure. Well, I guess one good example to give you is the work that we've done for a bot management provider called Netasea during the COVID-19 crisis. I don't know if you remember, but there was a PS5 shortage at the time,
Yeah,
and this
yeah,
happened
I
like just
remember.
before Christmas. I don't know if you're a gamer and
Yeah,
if you like playing consoles, but yeah. So you might have tried obviously to get PS5,
yeah,
just before Christmas. And that was obviously very difficult. Customers were angry because they could not get hold of a PS5 and they could not buy it
yeah,
for the kids for Christmas. Um,
yeah,
but that's the only thing that the media was actually reported on. how bad it was and how angry people were. So we saw an opportunity here to actually talk about the actual problem, which was that it was bots that were snapping up, all the stocks, not the fact that
Yeah.
Sony hadn't produced enough PS5. So what we
Yeah.
did is that we got data from like the threat research teams on the issue. We put a proactive comments together and off we went. And this helped generate a lot of coverage, in lots of national business media and a lot of leads, for them
Yeah.
off the back of it.
Yeah. I think this thing lasted for a couple of months. Like for the next couple of months, people weren't able to buy PlayStation 5.
Yeah, absolutely. And they were even like actually customers themselves that were buying
Yeah.
bots to then be able to buy PS5, which
Yeah.
was,
Yeah. Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
And actually, PS5 was not even the only sort of item that was concerned. I mean, there was all sorts of, items during
Yeah.
COVID that bots were
Yeah.
snapping up, like gym equipment, for example.
Yeah. 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 Yes. I think the whole isolation thing like really triggered that purchasing decision. So that's why people started buying everything they can. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah. So my third question to you is like amid economic challenges, like what effective tactics showcase cybersecurity value? Like how does your team adapt to marketing for emergency cybersecurity needs in the cybersecurity domain?
Sure. So I'm sorry, is that the third question? We might need to cut that.
Uh,
I
I
don't have that
think
one.
so.
So how we sort
Oh,
of, so you want to understand how we sort of pivot marketing strategies to address um,
yeah,
emerging needs. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So
correct.
yeah, so I think to address emerging sort of cybersecurity needs, I don't think it's necessarily the marketing strategies or the sort of tactics that need to pivot, but it's
Yeah,
actually the actual content that you produce and the topics that you talk about, as a company, as a spokesperson to the media, to analysts, to your customers, prospects, and partners. You need to make sure that it's topical and that's in line with what potential buyers need, at that time. Having
yeah,
said that, I think the marketing sort of strategy that we would advise a company to follow sort of depends on when they are on their journey. You're not going to have, and you should not have actually the same strategy if you're a startup or scale up than if you're an established business. So
yeah,
I think it also depends on which stage of the buying process a company is with a certain prospect. You're not going to have the same strategy if you just purely looking to generate awareness, or if you're actually looking to close the deal because you've been in contact with that prospect, you went through all of that process, and now you just want to be selected as the final vendor.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Totally makes sense. So my next question to you is like, what are the current cybersecurity trends in UK and US? Like, how does those two parallel with each other, and what strategies like cybersecurity experts and organizations adopted to like mitigate finance and healthcare sectors?
Hmm. So, if you look at the research that we've done, I think it was about three-quarters of US enterprises that have increased, cybersecurity investment in the last year, while only I think a little bit more than half of UK companies boosted their spend. So, what's
Yeah,
contributing to that difference is that there's a heightened awareness of the threat landscape in the US. But
yeah,
also that UK enterprises have had higher budget cuts as an impediment to sort of lightening their investments.
yeah,
Both UK and US enterprises that have decreased their investment have something in common, though. It's not all completely different. They
yeah,
state talent shortages as the main reason. And actually, there's a recent report by the UK government that found that there was about 160,000 cybersecurity jobs available last year, which
yeah,
was, I think, about a 30% increase from 2022. So to overcome that challenge, I think they need to redirect sort of organizational resources to other parts of the business, and it should
yeah,
also think about sort of developing talent from within and sort of upskilling their current workforce, through like sort of proper training and development. And I think inflation also had a significant impact on organizations' investment as a whole, but more so in the US, actually. I think there was about 71% of respondents in that market that mentioned inflation as one of the main reasons.
Yeah. Okay. And so my next question to you is like, how does long form content influence cybersecurity bias? Like, how can vendors create long form content that like attract attention, solve problem, and establish trust? I think
Mhm.
currently the short form content is like really trending right now, but long form content I think is somewhere called evergreen content. So how does those things like work out?
Yeah, absolutely. I think sort of one of the most effective tactic is demonstrating thought leadership, and you can do that through long form content. And
Yeah,
to stand out while also having not having to spend a fortune, especially in a crisis
yeah,
that we sort of like feeling right now. You need to have
yeah,
an opinion on market trends, and you need to have a strong vision for the future. And that can be communicated in sort of in many ways. But yeah, all the sort of the content that you need to create, it needs to be opinion led and data led, and you need to have sort of strong and bold opinions about the issues that are topical, and ideally those that are not being talked about by the competition. And you also need
yeah,
to sort of back up those sort of statements with proof points, whether these come from your own
yeah,
data or research with commissions or case studies. And I know it's tough, right, for a customer to speak on your behalf, especially in the cybersecurity industry, because nobody wants to admit that they've been breached.
yeah,
But that's really important. Even an anonymous, like I would say, case study can work.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I think the attention span has reduced like to a great extent. Like these 30
Mm.
seconds videos, like these kind of things, I think they also somehow uh, trigger the buying decisions. So yeah,
Yeah,
that
absolutely. Yeah, no,
yeah,
absolutely. And I think, in this research, we've seen that actually every type of content has a role to play.
yeah,
And the social media has increased a lot actually compared to the study that we've done a couple of years ago. Video case studies as well has increased. But I think it's still important to have, sort of your long form content available, because this is your opportunity to, really talk about there's sort of like your opinions and why, and also talk about sort of the importance of your solutions and how it's going to help solve your problems. Essentially, I think sometimes it's a bit hard to do that in sort of like a 30 seconds video. And if you look at
yeah,
the research, long form content and sort of like blogs, case studies, opinion articles from like suppliers are still like high, in a sort of buyers list, when it comes to
yeah,
like looking at what that vendors are doing.
yeah, yeah, correct, correct. So my next question to you is like, despite the current economic challenges, like there has been an increase in cybersecurity investments. Like
Mhm.
a lot of the industries like really collapsing right now, but this particular industry is like really booming, and the investments have been crazy. So like, what sort of thing like drives these investments, and how the cybersecurity sector is booming with investments? Can you just
Mhm.
explain on?
Yeah, I think there are different factors. If you look at our research, advances in technology, actually in both markets, the US and the UK, is very important, followed by keeping up with increasingly sophisticated threats. The attack surface is constantly growing, which is, not a surprise there. But also
Yeah,
there's more demands from client. That was sort of reported, I think, by US respondents, and keeping up with competitors is also a driver in the UK. So there's really different factors that mean that is sort of pushing sort of more investment in cybersecurity. And if you look at the threats in particular, I think data breaches was the main concern, among all the respondents. Spyware in the US was another concern, and especially
yeah,
right now with sort of like the geopolitical environment we're in.
yeah,
I think it's only going to increase, over the next few months with the elections coming up. Um, and malware was also another sort of concern in the UK that was reported.
yeah, yeah, correct. So my next question is like kind of similar to the previous one. So like in a crowded market, like just like you said, the attack surface has been increased, and there has been a number of companies like coming forward to say like, yes, I can we can do this, we can do that. So like in a crowded market, like how do cybersecurity vendors like maximize their exposure? Like everybody's following the same marketing methods. Like how a particular company can like uh, stand outside of the crowd and still like get investments in. Yeah. Cool.
I think it sort of depends of where you are on your journey, and that's why in our report we sort of outline sort of three broad like launchpad strategy for cybersecurity vendors depending on their size and budget. So if we
Yeah.
take, for example, scaling vendors, that want to improve the conversion rate of RSPs at the selection stage, they need to, focus on sort of particular activities from a channel perspective and from a contents perspective. Um,
Yeah.
if you look at the channels perspective, so they need to start researching the sort of top business technology publications they should be in, develop messages and content that is going to be resonating with the audience and the readers of those publications. They need to create thought-provoking content, and if they have the budget, to also commission independent research, I think, on industry
Yeah.
trends. Because that's, as I'm sure obviously, data is great when you want to write, an article, because it helps us sort of back up the point that you're making. Um,
Yeah. Correct.
Also create sort of quality, authoritative content and update it regularly to sort of like improve their SEO. And also identify and sort of target like a specific keyword phrase for each sort of type of content page on their website, and also include
Yeah.
relevant links from well-read sources. I think that's important in terms of generating awareness, and SEO is a key part. Um, Webinars as well are key. They have actually gone up in the research that we've done compared to 2 years ago. So I think
Yeah.
organizing webinars to sort of promote your business as a credible source of information within the industry is key. And because that's going to help you obviously further educate your audience about the needs and the capabilities of your products and services. So I would say that's the main things in terms of like the channel strategy if you want to sort of be selected,
Yeah.
for RFPs. From a content strategy perspective, I think they need to regularly publish and promote blogs and case studies on their websites. Social media channels, like I was saying earlier, is also key. And they also need to, through other digital marketing activities, demonstrate to their buying audience, their ability to solve their problems, their understanding of their business, the value that they bring, and also their industry knowledge. And also analyst relations. They need to invest in an effective and strategic analyst relations program that's going to be
Yeah.
managed by a dedicated team. You need to become top of mind, for key analysts. You need to shift
Yeah.
their perception of you, and sort of that's going to give you the sort of best chance of like featuring in analyst reports. And actually analyst reports are one of the most influential type of content that we've seen from our research.
Yeah. 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 Correct. Correct. So my last question to you is like the question is like really offbeat, but I really wanted to ask like if you want to like create a marketing team for a cybersecurity startup, and so what sort of talents would you bring in? Like what sort of things you will need to like really expand that sector? So what sort of talents would you like to bring?
Okay, what sort of type of sort of roles I would have within a marketing team?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think you obviously need, you need somebody that has previous cybersecurity experience, somebody that sort of understands the market really well, sort of the landscape, and how sort of, I would say, cybersecurity buys obviously buy the product. And if
Yeah.
that person also has sort of marketing and PR experience, that'd be great. But I think you need to have
Yeah.
definitely sort of like a sort of media relations team, right? That's going to be looking at sort of like all of the top of funnel activities that you can do. So,
Yeah.
PR, blog content, research reports, that sort of things. You also need to have an analyst relations team, a dedicated analyst relations team that's going to be, making sure that you get regular briefings with the likes of, IDC, Forrester, Gartner, All of those are the key analyst relations, analyst firms that that you want to influence. But you also need to have sort of like somebody with digital marketing as well capabilities. So somebody who understands, SEO, PPC, that has, dealt with sort of like, email marketing, email retargeting, in the past. I think all of these sort of like functions are important in the marketing team and sort of need to work together. So, you need to have a PR element, an AR element, and a marketing services element.
Yeah. That's totally correct. I think you touched upon all the main points. So yeah. So I think that was it, sorry, and I really enjoyed the session. And I hope we can like if you want to like add anything to the interview, like how was it, and is there anything specific would you like to talk about?
No, I think you've touched on all the main points, but yeah, I just wanted to say that if obviously anybody is interested in the research report, feel free to obviously contact me at CC Group, or just like connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll happily share the report with you so you can have a look. And obviously we have more data available that it's in a report, so I'll be happy to share that with you as well.
Okay, thank you. That would be like really good. I've been looking for some reports to like to write a feature article or something like that. So I think that would be I'll be really grateful for that. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for, yeah, sure.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay.